Hey guys, it's Paradise, and Assassin's Creed Shadows really does feel like a twist on the series, with it featuring two completely different feeling playable characters, a setting in Japan that many have been waiting a long time for, and completely new or revamped features such as the game's skill tree, its base or hideout building, and more. Well, after our recent chance to play an online preview of Assassin's Creed Shadows, thanks to Ubisoft for inviting us, we have a bunch of things to talk about from our experience of playing the game after waiting so long to get a hands-on experience. So I'm going to go over different elements of the game that I got to try out and how they felt, so hopefully you can get a feel for things yourself. First up, it wouldn't be an Assassin's Creed game without the classic synchronization system to scout the surrounding area, and they have made a big change to the way you scout objectives this time around. But thanks to Naoe's new grapple hook and amazing parkour skills, it's easy to scale even multi-story buildings to reach these high vantage points, or in this case, a sync point at the top. I'll talk more about the two characters soon, but it's important to note just how different they are, and the fact that in many cases, Yasuke simply cannot reach these places at all. So for much of the parkour, you need to use Naoe, which for me isn't too much of an issue as she is insanely fun to play. The interesting thing about synchronization compared to more recent Assassin's Creed games is that the scouting of the nearby points of interest will no longer reveal and mark them for you on your map. It simply shows you the direction of them and keeps them as question marks. This means you need to pin them and then go and explore to find out what they are. It's a part of the game's new philosophy to encourage exploration and likely not overburden you with a million things to tick off on your map. Although bear in mind this might slow down your progression of finding specific activities or events that you're looking for. Next, I have to mention this because it's just really cute and quite cool. There are plenty of animals to encounter, and yes, you can pet the dog, or even the cat, and maybe even other animals that I didn't find. I found several animals around the main castle area just wandering the streets, but I know you can in different ways befriend them through various activities. This lets you then house them in the game's base building system, which is your hideout. I didn't get to test this out very much myself, but there are different materials you can use to build buildings, place pathways, different objects, your companions, and animals. So you can have a little collection of friendly animals in your hideout. But the companions will also wander around here, and they do play a big part in combat as they also act as abilities where you can call them in to aid you in a fight. From my experience, these were pretty strong and acted as great distractions or tanks. For these side activities in the game, I definitely didn't get to experience all of them, but there do seem to be a range of them and various ones depending on the character that you're playing. For example, Yasuke can use a bow, so archery trials are one activity that you can engage with as him. But there's also random encounters out in the world to find. For instance, if you find wildlife or special interactions, you can focus in on them and paint them, which will actually create wall decorations for you to use in your hideout's customization. There's other types of these activities as well, but I just didn't get enough time to explore and encounter them all. There are, however, shrines all around, and this is a nice touch as they are a big part of Japanese culture. But they aren't just for decoration, as you can actually go up to them and pray at them or give an offering. This will actually reward you with a short animation and some kind of random buff. For example, one shrine gave me an increased damage dealt to armor buff, meanwhile another just gave me some XP. So these were cool things to encounter as you travel around and were fun to interact with. And speaking of exploring around, this was one of the highlights. The part of the map that we got to experience was very well made, with Himeji Castle being the focal point in the middle. But the overall atmosphere, visuals, and recreations of things from this time era is really something to get lost in. For example, here are some simple gameplay clips of me riding and exploring, but I think it's just enjoyable just to look at the scenery. Now let's talk a bit about Naoe and Yasuke, as these are two characters that are starkly different, which at first is a little bit perplexing, especially so if you're a veteran of the series. But it makes more sense the more you learn about them and try them out. It's a different direction for the series after the more recent Assassin's Creed titles, where they have split the stealth gameplay and combat gameplay into two different playstyles and characters. But I think many people will actually come to enjoy it over time. It lends well to replayability as the two characters have different dialogue, and I assume different options or outcomes to specific quests. There's a lot of freedom in picking who you want to play and when you want to play them, as anytime you're not in combat or in a dangerous area, you can simply go into the menu and swap out. So overall, you weren't forced to play as a particular character for very long outside of early story missions. Naoe is basically a shinobi, and she feels like what you want a ninja to be. She's quick, stealthy, is adept with different tools and assassinations, but she can also hold her own in combat, but does require some extra skill and attention when doing so. Meanwhile, Yasuke is kind of like the opposite. He's just a pure powerhouse warrior. He's all about brute force and combat skill. He can just wreck waves of enemies with ease. It feels like easy mode in combat. But he isn't stealthy at all and simply cannot parkour very well. So each one has a specific playstyle that they lean heavily into, and I must say I cannot help but feel like Naoe is the better pick. Yasuke can just face roll enemies, so in that he is unbeaten, but for exploring, parkouring, assassinating, and still having fun in combat, Naoe just feels better, or at least a lot more fun and overall a bit more well-rounded to play. I love the new addition of crawling, which makes it possible to hide in low grass and assassinate unexpected enemies. She's so much fun to travel around with your grapple hook to go onto buildings, scout out areas, and then tackle the objectives the way that you want to. Meanwhile, Yasuke is more about going in guns blazing, shooting, slashing, or bonking enemies. To be honest, I expected to have a lot more fun on Yasuke given the power fantasy of being a massive samurai warrior. It just sounded and looked like a lot of fun. But I actually enjoyed the more classic assassin playstyle of Naoe and all the fun new tools and techniques that she brings to the series. So my point here is that you really do want to try out both of these characters and see what clicks for you. They're very different, they play differently, they have different dialogue. It does mix the game up when you're playing one versus the other. But if you want that more old school, stealthy, full-on Assassin's Creed playstyle, Naoe is just so much fun. Well, tell me below, who do you think you'll be playing and what are you thinking of Assassin's Creed Shadows? And make sure you're subscribed for more videos coming your way very, very soon. Here at Arekkz Gaming, we're two friends who love to play games. You have me, Paradise, as well as 26.
Our goal is to keep the videos as concise as possible by cutting out any of the fluff and focusing on what really matters with high quality videos.
So make sure you're subscribed down below for more videos on your favorite games coming very, very soon.